presents the information.
What's that?
It's all good.
Well, I have, the time is now come for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Calling to order, minutes, resolution 23-203, to accept the minutes of September 20th, 2023. Second. Discussion? All in favor? Public hearing, none. Public comment, to allow the members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an oncoming agenda item. Seeing no members from the public, we will go on to the workshop. First review of unorganized territory budget for FY25.
In your packets, you have the information that David provided. Unfortunately, Dave had to stay home today, wasn't feeling well. So I told him that we would just do a brief conversation. He has been putting together some figures in regard to the UT budget, but he doesn't have it finalized by far. So the reason that he put the information in your packets in that way is so that you could kind of go down and see what the categories were that are funded in the UT budget and what the 23 and 24 budgets consisted of. And he actually was going to do a presentation on the screens and all that, so that will have to come at another time. What I wanted to focus on just for a few minutes is that sheet I just handed out to you, which is about a 13-year running tally of the makeup of the UT budget. And so, just going by the columns across the top, you have the property growth and the income growth factors. These are determined by the state of Maine. How much has the valuation of the unorganized territory gone up? And then you have the income growth factor that's factored in going to LD1 and those calculations. So you add those two factors together, and at the bottom of the page is where we are now. And those two factors are significant. They come up to 12.19%. That's a very significant increase to the cap. When we talk about caps, this is what the state says they will allow you to budget up to. If you go back and look at some of the history back in 2013, 2014, these growth factors were very small, 1%, 2%, 3%. The last couple of years, they've been as much as 13 and 12%. So that makes a significant difference. So that column right in the middle that says tax assessment limit, that's what the state says this is where your cap is for your UT budget. You can't exceed it. If you do exceed it, you have to go to the budget committee, the 10 members that make up the county budget committee, to approve your overage. That hasn't happened for a long time. You can see in the column, second to last column, where it says budget committee vote. That was the case back in FY 2013 and FY 17 when a UT deputy was added. Other than that, Dave's been under the cap with his budget. So coming in this year, the cap has been raised to 2.832 million. And Dave's initial draft right now is he's coming in around 2.6 million. So there doesn't seem to be any concern about exceeding that cap for this budget year. And so as Dave continues to work through all these categories, obviously some of the biggest ones are the infrastructure, your roads, your bridges, and those projects that need to be accomplished. And the costs of those things are obviously much higher now. Every once in a while I have dinner with the road commissioner for the UT, and we're close that way. And so he told me that to put gravel in place used to be $15 a yard. Now it's $60 a yard to put gravel in place. So those are the that's why the cap is helpful, the raising of the cap, so, but that's my nutshell on the UT budget. I'm sure Dave will have more, but I didn't know if the commissioners had any questions. I know for some of you, this is your first time kind of looking at this. It's not structured very different than the county budget, but, you know, there's a lot of, what I appreciated when Dave shared it was how many of the different towns and territories that we're actually, you know, helping support through this budget.
John, you had an interesting question.
Well, it's just hopeless on this stuff, as you know by now. But just looking at these materials from your shop, Patrick, so just in putting the budget together, we do have revenue from the UT.
Yep.
And one of those, I just didn't understand some of them, like it says excise taxes, 100,000.
So when you register your vehicle,
So if I live in Lexington, I gotta register my truck. Can I register it in Lexington? Or what do I do? Do I go online?
I believe you would do that registration through the state.
Yeah.
But even if you do that, there is some money that goes back to the unorganized territory, just like there is money that's
Excise tax,
kept by
yeah.
the town, right?
So, so this money, the revenue for the UT is basically coming through, back from the state. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
yes, they make, it's 1 or 2 payments each year.
So I guess the other question is that a 100% pass-through?
I do not.
Okay.
So when you figure your excise tax at the municipal level, it's basically you're trending. You're trying to figure out, okay, we've been doing this amount of dollars the last 5 years, and you average that, and that's what you budget for. So the trends have been pretty static for excise tax in the UT, guys. I think that 200,000 figure has been part of that revenue budget for several years. The other big one there is LRAP, which is Local Roads Assistance Program. Every town gets that, and the UT also gets that. It comes out of the Maine DOT budget. So, and of course, other revenue can come from undesignated fund balance, can come from cost savings. So,
And Patrick, does the increase in the growth factor, is that from the corridor?
It was last year, I don't know if a good amount of it is this year, but last year, a large portion was for the towns you saw last year.
Well, there's no other real reason for a big bump in that, is there?
other than if your valuations are underwater, just like a municipality.
Okay.
If your valuations are not meeting the market, and in the UT, there are several homes that sell for quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
That bumps that market, and the state Maine revenue has to bring that, because they're the assessor, they have to bring that valuation up. So I would assume there's been an overall across-the-board raise in valuation in the UT, just like every other town has seen.
Okay. But, continuing my stupid questions, I plead guilty. So, I've never been able to figure this out, but I think it's been explained to me. We put this budget together, and as long as it's under that cap, the state just writes us a check?
Well, they go through their legislative process. Right.
Do they have their own little committee that decides whether we're wasting their money?
Correct. And
So they have, they do real estate tax for the UT.
Yeah.
And let's just say it's $20 million, or just take a number. And then we submit our budget, and they give us what we want, if it's okay, and they keep the rest. If there, or is there, do they give it all to us? I mean, I don't understand how it all shakes out.
There's different parts of the budget. They, in a sense, offers services to different parts of the UT.
The state?
No. We
Yeah,
provide
yeah.
services. The state also provides services to the parts of the UT that aren't considered part of Dave's budget. So basically,
Okay.
state comes up with a budget, Dave comes up with a budget, and I think there's another third party or whatever. All those budgets are added together, and that becomes the taxable value for the UT. So, I guess, it's like having different departments create their own budgets. They all get melded together for the tax authority.
And the state services are what, like game wardens, or do they?
Roads,
I,
bridges.
Their own roads, state roads? and-
Right.
Yeah.
schools, if they use.
Yeah.
Regulated schools.
Oh, mystery to me, as you can plainly see. I'm catching on slowly. Thank you.
Well, on this, thought that we had a place for, okay, this down here under law enforcement services, okay. Right. Under services. Very good,
It's the
okay.
biggest number.
Answered my own question. Good. Any other questions, concerns, comments?
Just what's our next step on this? We'll have a meeting with Dave and...
So the final budget has to be submitted in December, and so that has to have your approval on it. So in this case, on the 18th, I assume Dave will come and do a more detailed discussion, as he planned to do today. And then through November, he'll be finalizing some quotes on road projects. He still needs to get back from certain fire and ambulance services that we support, see what their budgets are. And it's an oddball, because you're asking people to figure their budget 18 months in advance so that you can put it in your budget. And so there's a lot of, fluidity in it. But once you come down to that final number and you, as commissioners, are comfortable with it, then essentially you pass it, and Dave submits it to the state, and the legislature does its process. And like Patrick was saying, all the UTs kind of get put on that same table for the legislature to look at. If I'm understanding Dave right, we're one of the largest UT budgets, but we also have some of the largest UT valuation. So
Yeah.
that
Otherwise, geographical areas.
right.
Yeah.
One of the things that the commissions will consider is do we want to add any more money in for roads and bridges? There's a requirement that you can only hold so much in undesignated fund balance, so that will have to be added back as revenue to offset the budget, so. Dave will give you much more information.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have a public hearing on that budget.
I don't think that requires a public hearing.
Oh, okay, I was curious, because I saw in the paper where Franklin is having a public hearing on their...
Yeah, I think it's the legislature's part, there's a public hearing there.
Yeah.
Most likely that's the
I
public
think
comment.
Dave has to submit the first draft. I mean,
From what I read in the paper, Franklin's public hearing has to do with some TIF amendments and that TIF in the UT, but I don't think it's their budget per se.
Yeah. All set with our first workshop? Okay, workshop number 2 is to discuss the review committee for the community benefit program matching funds.
So you should have a one-pager in your packets talking about the composition of the matching grant review committee for the community benefit funds. What I propose is the makeup would be 1 county commissioner, 2 budget committee members, 2 at-large members, and also include Christian, SEDC, and myself. So I have spoken and confirmed with all these people on the list here that would represent all the districts, and of course myself and Christian, and they're all willing to participate in this process. And the process would be fairly simple. Applications would come in. Once the application period's closed, these applications would be sent to the members of this committee. They would review them and use a simple rubric to score them. And then there would be a meeting where they would make recommendations to the commissioners based on the applications. So, any questions on that?
On the financing of this community benefit, will the community benefit finance itself because there are the administrative costs of, like you said, submitting the applications to all the members. Now, if there's going to be a paper submit, there's some costs there in labor and material.
Well, I think what I'm hearing you say is, can we allocate certain administrative costs for processing this program to the community benefit
Right.
program, to be funded from that?
Yeah,
You could, I don't anticipate there to be a significant amount of admin costs.
okay, we're just making
Yeah.
sure that we don't
Yeah,
impose on the taxpayer too much.
certainly. Yeah, that's a good point.
Where that money's there and it's used for the
Yep.
community benefit.
Yep.
That would be another community benefit, actually, is to alleviate that taxpayer cost.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we can certainly consider, tracking a certain amount of time and
Yeah.
materials that go into that, and come up with a figure.
Any other discussion or questions on that? Seeing none, we may move to the number 3, charter review.
So in your packet, I tentatively put a couple of pages of the charter in there, this is putting our foot in the water, well, how do you want to do this, that sort of thing. And it's been beneficial for me to be more familiar with the charter, and I think it's good for all the commissioners to be familiar with it. So if you follow my strategy here, if my printed copies came out in the right color, then you have the text from our charter, and then below it you have language from the other 4 charters. There are 5 charters, 5 counties of the 16 have charters. The rest of them don't have charters, and essentially that means that they're governed by state statute. If you have a charter, that basically you're just kind of building on the state statute as to how your county is to operate in certain ways. It begins with a preamble, and ours is the same as the one in Knox County. Aroostook and Androscoggin add a little bit more language regarding this idea of the dual role of the county as an agency of the state and a unit of local government. I found that interesting and wondered if that should be something that we consider adding to our preamble. Again, I don't think there's any right or wrong answers here. It's just we're trying to see what the other counties have come up with for guidance and ideas. So I'm just going to go red line by red line here and just pause and see if there's any comments or thoughts. Any comments or thoughts on the preamble?
Just that I like the idea of adding, except as otherwise prescribed by law.
Yeah, I thought so.
That was the only thing. I don't think that we needed to discuss the 3-legged stool nature of county government.
Okay.
I think it actually is articulated further in, anyway, in a little different language.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that to be the case with several things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And myself, I'm fine with just the way the verbiage is now. I mean, if we're gonna, I would just as soon not spend any more time trying to convince the voters out there of 37 different changes, if that's what we end up with.
Yep.
So, if it doesn't actually make some sort of substantial difference, it's not something that I'm gonna.
Yeah,
be
Joel's
pushing
correct.
for.
If there's no material change, then
So, yeah,
we should,
why confuse anybody if we don't need to?
yeah.
I agree with you completely.
Oh, my God.
So you're the odd man out there?
So under Article 1, the way we title that article is "the county." Other charters say "authority." And everybody has the same first 3, which talks about the name and the boundaries and the county seat. The other counties, like Cumberland, Aroostook, and Androscoggin, add this part about nature and legal capacity. And again, this may be articulated in our charter with a little bit different language and a little bit different space, but they put it right up front. I didn't know if anybody had any questions about the nature and legal capacity.
Well, I kind of, following up on Commissioner Stepkes' comment, if we haven't run into some rough roads as a result of our language and it's not an issue, I would just leave it
Boy,
rather than stir up a lot of questions about something. So,
looks like you're going to make a one-egg omelet. So,
Without any cheese.
Yeah, I was thinking,
so top of the next page,
places.
again, Cumberland and Androscoggin add this other section dealing with elected officials, and they outline those elected officials that are called for in the Constitution, the judge of probate, the sheriff, register of probate, district attorney. And that's essentially, again, similar language to what we have in another section. And then really to expedite this right down there, the only other difference under the powers of the county is Knox and Somerset have 1 through 4. And Cumberland and Aroostook and Androscoggin add the following section on division of powers. This is kind of like the legislative and administrative branches. The establishment and adoption of policy shall be the responsibility of the board. The execution of that policy shall be the responsibility of the county administrator. And I just put that out there because 3 other counties have it, and I didn't know if that would help clarify things in regards to who does what. Who is the, let me ask you this, according to you, who is the chief executive officer of the county?
That would be the county administrator,
Not according to our charter.
not necessarily.
It's you, it's the board chair is the chief executive officer of the
does it
county.
say that in the charter, that the chair is the chief executive officer?
It said, it's
Where does
because,
it say that?
because it doesn't separate like the other 3 counties do with their language. And I did look this up because actually we needed a signature from the chief executive officer, and I wanted to see if that would be me or if that would be the chair. And in state stuff, it gives the commissioners that authority,
Right.
not the manager or administrator. So it's not clearly dictated in the charter who the chief executive officer is.
So the charter only says that the chair can call a special meeting and run the meetings.
Right.
That's the only special powers
Right,
that the chair has as opposed to the rest of us.
right. But if you look at state statute, it talks about the board having the authority as the executive or executors.
So we all have that collective authority,
Right, and usually it would run through the chair.
but it doesn't say that anywhere.
No.
It's just,
But that, and I think that's why those other 3 counties made that distinction. And so in those counties, I would assume that the administrator or the county manager is the chief executive officer. So, I'm not pushing one way or another, I'm just letting you know
no,
what.
I'm not disagreeing with you either, I'm just saying that the existing.
Can you offer up an example where that confusion may create an issue?
Really, it comes down to signature of contracts, signature of, in this case, it was a grant request that needed the signature of the chief executive officer for federal paperwork.
So as long as the 6 people here, one including you, understand that.
Yep.
Anybody outside of that could there be a perceived issue that confusion?
Coming from a municipal background, where in most municipalities, the town manager or the city manager is the chief executive officer, that's where some of the confusion lies. As we interact with towns and municipalities, they're coming from a perspective that they're the chief executive officer, and that's empowered to them by the council or the select board, but it's different in county government, so.
So if we did something that created an uproar, you could catch the flack for it?
I think the workshop time is done, I think, so.
Kind of like it, isn't it?
Well, I think it's confusing. Well, go ahead, please.
I think it needs to be in there for clarification purposes that we collectively are that authority.
I think Newell, when he was chair, delegated the administrator to do most all that anyway.
And we did that as a consensus.
It was a consensus from the board.
Yeah.
If we're in a situation where somebody needs the county to sign off on something, like a deed, our existing structure does not address that effectively at all.
It would be a different paperwork, similar to a contract or.
I mean, we don't have language in our charter that says that the chair can act on behalf of the entire board.
Right. We don't have, that's.
Or a system under which he would have the consensus or authority to proceed like that. So we have nothing like that. And as I said earlier, we don't have anything that confers upon the chair any greater authority than any other member.
So
What I've been just sort of getting away with in certain, it makes sense that the chair signs letters and acts on behalf of the board from time to time.
So what I'll do is, at the next meeting, I'll bring some state statute information and kind of clarify where we get our direction from.
And that would be where we'd want to insert language that would clarify this gray area at the
Yep.
moment.
And that's all I had for that first toe in the water of charter review.
Great, thank you. New agenda items, commissioners only. Nothing, okay. Finance reporting.
At the end of September, no big surprises, all the departments are running favorable. Mostly due because of headcount, like I mentioned last time, we're currently, as first of October, we're 19 positions countywide, understaffed. So, we have, 10 different departments impacted by it. Any questions about the detail? There's really no big issue in terms of other than we can't get any staff.
How about inmate food? That sounds interesting.
Well, inmate,
They're not eating, or?
no, the inmate budget is done for 160 as a current staffing factor. So if we don't have 160 inmates, then it's our table, it has been our table for the last several years, we're basically at between 130, 140.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Administrator report?
So I jotted down some notes that are in your packet, but in addition to that, I wanted to bring you up to speed on a couple of things you'll need to know. I confirmed with Bob's Cash Fuel that the boiler install will start tomorrow. So they're going to be on site tomorrow and Friday. Monday is a holiday, and they hope to finish by Tuesday or Wednesday, getting that in. So that's why we ordered the 80-degree temperature until we could get the boiler in.
I was going to say,
Well done.
You're right.
now is when we're going to have a cold snap.
The sheriff and I have been talking about this in the level of work that one of his staff is doing in regards to freedom of access requests. And we got an email from Peter Marchese because there's several cases going on in the jail where there's been freedom of access requests, and they've been quite detailed. And Kristen Washburn is the staff member over there that has been trained to handle that. And the sheriff recommended I read this compliment that came from Peter. He says, "I've handled a good many document requests over the course of almost 35 years of practicing law. Some of these requests are in the context of litigation, and others have been FOIA requests. I can say without any hesitation that your efforts, including your attention to detail and your overall thorough approach to these projects, far exceeds any that I've ever seen over my many years. I wish that all of my clients were as diligent as you. Thank you so much for your hard work. It made my job easier and certainly will aid in moving these matters forward. You're a credit to your agency. And just so there's no communication, he was speaking in regards to Kristen, not the sheriff.
Not the sheriff.
Bada boom.
I said it with the training.
And you paid for it, so.
Good. Congratulations to Kristen.
Yes.
Thank you very much for reading that. Yeah.
Couple other things to know, in regards to the November 7th ballot, the municipalities have received their ballots, and so our question is the last question on the second page. That's a very good thing that we're not on a separate piece of paper, because the clerks hate that. So, did I get an amen?
Oh, I got an email from my clerk about that today, too, yeah.
So I have emailed all the small papers that we talked about the last meeting, Rolling Thunder, 2 Cent Times, Town Line, and I'm hoping to continue to have a correspondence with them, also the papers in the Morning Sentinel up in Bangor. And hopefully we'll continue to roll out that information as best we can on that question. Next time you meet is the 18th. That evening at 6 p.m. is the Spirit of America recognition ceremony. It'll be held upstairs in the courtroom, and so we're expecting probably a couple dozen folks will come out that have been recognized for their volunteerism, and it's always good if the commissioners are able to be there and join in, and there will be cake, so that's usually what gets me to these. And just finally, Leanne and Captain Pike and myself will be at an HR training tomorrow. This is funded by our risk pool and down at Pretty Flaherty in South Portland. So we need to leave early tomorrow morning, and Leanne is a morning person, so this should be an exciting trip down to Portland, so.
Mike driving?
Make sure she's had some coffee.
Night driving.
I think we're taking the transport van, just in case we need to put people in the back, so. And if you don't mind, I did want to share some things that Dave had passed along to me in regard to a UT report of some of the things he's working on. Is that okay?
Please do.
Yep. So arbitration has been scheduled for the dispute between the county and Kingsbury Plantation in regards to their payment on the salt and sand shed. That's going to be a 9 a.m. Zoom arbitration on November 28th, so it's a ways away. But that is, the two parties have agreed that that will be final. So whatever that arbitrator decides, that will be the final decision in that regard. The new tanker pumper truck headed up to Rockwood, scheduled to arrive there on October 13th. There's going to be a training on it on the 14th, and the county's portion of the payment is in that warrant, so that should be all taken care of. TIF committee met today. First time the TIF committee had met in person, so I appreciate the commissioners that were attending from the UT. Funding request from the Forks Area Trail Club, and the recommendation will be coming to the commissioners at the next meeting on the 18th. So, that's Dave's report.
And just to add to the referendum question, I contacted Amy Calder of Morning Sentinel and Valerie, and I cannot pronounce her last name at this moment, from the Bangor Daily News. Although I have not heard back from them at this point, I imagine that they will get something in the paper for us, hopefully. I also sent out an email to all my contacts in my email contacts that live in Somerset County. I think I sent one to John and to SIP. I didn't send one to Scott or Joel, but I will do that, so that you want to tweak it and send it out to your contacts. That would be helpful to our cause.
I do, with that being said, I mean, I know it's on the same page, but being the 8th question is a little concerning to me.
Well, it's not the 8th question.
So we really got to push that.
It's not the 8th question, it's its own question. There are 8.
There are 8.
There are 4 referendum and 4 constitutional
Okay,
questions.
so that's split, but it's still,
It's the 9th question, but it's on its own, yeah.
but it's on its own, and
But I gotta tell you, those 8 questions are sort of daunting to try to read them for the first time and figure out what they're all
And you
about.
know what people do when they get a ballot like that, is they start with this answer and boom, it's the same answer all the way down through, so.
Well, that's good if it's yes.
Usually it isn't.
Well, we can only ask them to start on the second stage first.
I think I'd rather have them vote all no, even on ours.
They usually vote no on, do you agree with me, they vote no frequently on any kind of constitutional change? I think it's sort of an instinctive reaction. I don't think-
There's a couple of them I'm gonna vote, definitely vote no on, quite frankly. But with our question, vote yes on the Somerset County referendum question.
Yeah.
Right, any other administrative reports, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll go on to department heads. Mike?
For the month of September, 6,958 calls for service total. We did 2,122 911 calls for the month. I went back to September of '22 because I know we keep having this conversation about we reduced the 911 call volume by 50%. And I kept saying it's not going to reduce our call volume by 50%. And basically, looking from September of '22 to September of '23, there was a reduction overall of 15% in calls for service, not the 50%. So a large portion of the business is done by all first responders in the county. It's handled over business lines, or it's self-initiated, or it's done in ways that are not received by 911. So getting rid of 50% of our 911 calls actually reduced our call volume by 15%. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that we didn't lose 50% of what we were doing. So we did hire one new person this past month. He started a week ago last Sunday. He spent 1 day in the communication center on Sunday and went directly to the academy for 4.5 to 5 weeks of training. So we're now looking for a person for the one opening that's left. We had 2 observations scheduled for last weekend. Both of them were no-shows. Not quite sure why people go through the application process and go through the agreement process and scheduling of the observation and they don't show up, but it seems to happen more often than people believe. So, yeah, the Central Square project's moving along. We're kind of moving into the next phase where we're talking data conversion and mapping out how we want to convert that data and which way it's going to go. Currently, we're looking at a September 23rd of '24 go live date. So there's a lot of weeks of training, a lot of weeks of conversion. They've got 15 weeks scheduled into the plan just for conversion of data. So, there's a lot of time in these pieces that need to be done. So we're getting this slowly but surely. I just wanted to update you on the hazard mitigation plan. That plan expires in January of '24. In March of '22, 19 months ago, I submitted a letter to MEMA requesting grant funding for payment of the contractor to do that update. I filled out the application in July of last year. To date, yesterday, I got approval finally of the application. However, conveniently, the FEMA fund that funds that is now empty. And until they replenish that, they can't send me a contract to actually start the process. So if somebody mentions something to you, I just want everybody to understand that this has been a 19-month process so far, and we still haven't gotten the funding to do the plan. So it is still there. We're continuing to plan for the solar eclipse for next year. We have another meeting in Jackman next month. I do believe Chief Jarvis is inviting Chief Hume over from Rockwood, as they are right in the line as well. I haven't had a lot of discussion, or I'll be honest, any discussion with him yet as to what their plans are or how they plan on handling it. So we're working on an active shooter takeoff exercise for the Northland Living Center in Jackman for November. We've been working with CFP and ES-BOLUS on safety plans for the NECPC corridor, as far as availability of 911 and how sat phones are going to work in relationship with calling 911. And so we're getting ready to run some tests on those because I can't honestly answer where that sat phone 911 call is going to end up. So satellite phones, I'm not sure how they're directed, so we'll find out through the testing process. Lastly, I just wanted to, I know Tim shared with you the September 16th timeline that we had as far as Tropical Storm Lee and the power outages that we had, and I just wasn't sure if anybody had any questions on that. Hoping that we don't repeat that this weekend. The storm that's coming in, so.
Good.
Any questions or comments?
I'll just make one comment, and only because I listen to a lot of what goes on in the county on my radio in my car, and this week has been, wow. I mean, just really, we should appreciate what our people do to the nth degree, because it's crazy how many calls they handle a day.
On the eclipse, that's April 8th. Is there a danger, are people, there's no place for people to, large numbers of people are going to come up into that area. Is the ice going to be, I'm worried about the ice.
All kinds of questions, Commissioner. Actually,
The weather-
fire chief up there has been approached by numerous four-wheelers, ATV clubs, and snowmobile clubs about what the condition of the ice will be, so
Yeah.
that they can congregate out on the ice to watch the eclipse. I think we may have all kinds of issues. I mean, 1st of April in Japan, we can have green grass or we can have a blizzard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and the ice could be pretty rotten or pretty solid.
And I think one of the biggest issues, first of all, is gonna be traffic in the 201 corridor, both up and down, but more so after the eclipse, because there's 2 or 3 days in advance that people are coming up over the weekend. The eclipse is on Monday. Once that finishes on Monday, everybody that's there is gonna wanna go south.
Yeah.
So, and everybody that's there has pulled their car off to the side of the road and gotten out to watch the eclipse, and now the car is sunk in the ditch, and now we need records to get them out. And so I think these are all things that we're having that discussion about, but you know, I don't think we don't have a clear-cut answer, and, you know, you can plan for, you know, a town of 900 and something people to get 5,000 to 10,000 people into it, is going to create some issues.
Yeah.
Put up like a tool.
Yeah. 'Cause you can count on that there'll be frost heaves and potholes.
Yes.
Those are the things you can count on.
Yeah, and you know, if you take a look at downtown Jackson, there's no real central area to congregate. You know, you've got the green right at the town office, it's gonna take a few hundred people on it, but after you get past that, they're just going to be wherever, and wherever sometimes is what creates a problem, so.
Nobody else stuck in the open.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, fasten your seatbelts.
You going up to that, John?
I wouldn't ordinarily do that.
No.
I'm not an eclipse person. Are you?
No.
Sheriff?
We had patrol had 377 calls of service last week. Been working with Pavel on the Minuteman project within the South Jail. County administrator and the captain have also been very involved with that. Been working with the jail standard council statewide, county administrator over the jail supplemental. That request is going to be going to the governor's budget. I believe that number we're asking for statewide, somewhere around 13.2 million, so we'll see what that goes. And we've been also working with Chief Ted Ross through the judicial marshal contract. That expired at the end of September.
Questions? Let's see, we have Mike and Michael. Mike, Mr. Pike, you all set?
Just a couple of updates on personnel. We have 2 new officers currently in training. We have 4 additional officers in the pipeline. We're just waiting for some last-minute paperwork to get them on board. So hopefully by the next commissioners meeting, we'll have those names for you to officially consider. But as it stands right now, we have 2 official openings. Hoping to have that gap closed, full staffing by the end of the month.
Wonderful, thank you. Yes,
Can you look at this resolution? Because initially, when I gave it to the chair, I had all the names in it that you had recommended. When we get to that resolution, I just need to know what names you want.
I think just the one.
Just those two? Gotcha, okay, thank you. So we'll deal with that when you get to that resolution. Everything's
Deputy Chief?
Our newest deputy that we've hired, Jack Page, is at the academy right now, going through phase 2 of the law enforcement program. This is when they're given us initial training so that you can actually get out with the deputies and start working with them on, with field training officers. And it's expected that he'll be going to the academy, the ATV school in January. We have 2 other candidates that have given conditional job offers. Bottom line is they're at least 6 weeks out. Testing processes and stuff like that, polygraph, psych evaluation, medical investigation, medical physicals and stuff. 2 potential candidates.
Very good. Questions, concerns? Pavel?
As Sheriff mentioned, so tomorrow, Minuteman, they're coming with a new server for the camera project, so we're installing that tomorrow. And electrician will run all the cabling for the internal cameras. So the project is moving for EOC building. We're gonna do there's some grants, so we're gonna do some upgrades to upgrade like networking infrastructure, putting new firewall. So there's some stuff coming over there. I placed the order for the tape backup, so that's coming hopefully within 2 weeks. So we're gonna install this for the tape backups. And tomorrow we're upgrading our financial server software trio. So that's happening.
How's our website?
So we're still waiting, they're still working on the website for us. So that's just waiting for them
Yeah.
to finalize and we can migrate the data.
I've received some concerns from people.
Still waiting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Another, any questions or concerns for Pavel? Anything else? Okay, thank you. I have a question. How is the compressor up in the attic? Has that been handled?
That compressor is on order and probably won't be here till December.
Oh, okay.
So that was the Eastern Fire bid.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've, Nelson and I talk about it every week and just see if there's an update.
Yeah, just thought I'd get an update on that too, thanks. Okay, no unfinished business, going on to new business resolution 23-204 to engage with Eaton Peabody to perform an initial review of creation of a tax increment district in the unorganized territory.
Second.
Discussion? Yeah, and I just want to make sure that when we do talk with Eaton Peabody, that we put in there, because of the new law change for TIF being able to be used for municipal structures, that we have that availability so that we can take care of like our tower and the buildings next to the tower, the sheriff's outpost, even though it's in Jackman, but it's still House UT, for other buildings of that nature, so that we have that municipal building availability, use. So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Resolution 23-206 to approve the hiring of the following corrections officers.
Can you go back to 205?
Oh, 205, excuse me, yes, I missed that. Resolution 23-205 to establish and promote the Community Benefit Matching Grant Program.
So moved.
Is there a second? Oh, second, thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, now, Resolution 23-206, to approve the hiring of the following corrections officers for Somerset County Jail: Gabriel Dubois, Kristen Millett.
Yeah, and that's the, as Captain Pike said, the remaining 4 will have to come back to a future meeting because they're still going through some of the process. So it's really just those first 2 you mentioned.
Yeah, so I will
I'll amend that.
truncate that to those 2 people, and so to approve the hiring of the following corrections officers for Somerset County Jail: Gabrielle Dubois and Christine Millett.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Resolution 23-207 to accept the Emergency Management Performance Grant for the amount of $85,634.50.
So moved.
Second.
Would you like to, what is the grant?
That's the annual match on the budget.
Okay, this is for our anticipating, our audience out there in the world who want
absolutely.
to know about these things. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Capital Reserve expenditures, unorganized territory, warrants, Resolution 23208, to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail and unorganized territory for a total of $282,102.76.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only,
No?
just for discussion, would we want to see the county administrator move to our table or stay where he is? If we move him to the table, he'll be on TV. Just, and we don't have to talk about that now, I just thought I'd throw that out, just to see if we wanted to make a change. So, we
I didn't
can
really follow that. What are you suggesting?
just move the county administrator to the table so he'll be with us.
I'd leave that up to the county commissioner.
That way we can make it more accountable there. No.
That's right.
Let's say, it's in my contract that I have a certain number of minutes of on-camera time each meeting.
Well, Scott's been hogging that whole table now.
I noticed that, so I was thinking, there's this empty spot, and there's an empty chair, and
I didn't know whether there's supposed to be some sort of
It makes sence.
visual break between the board and the county administrator instead of a sort of a separation of authority. I don't know if that's important. I'm just, I think you should sit over there. I would say you sit wherever you like. Would be my-
that's what I would think too. I've already threw it by Tim anyway, to see how he felt. He didn't really care either way, but I
All
thought,
those in favor of Tim not being on camera?
Well, you know,
well, Tim's been, he's on camera.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because we have him for 3 minutes and 28 seconds.
if he was up here, it would allow more department heads to move up. to
That's
here on-
that's a
the
good
other
point,
thing,
it could
too.
be on mic.
That'd
so.
be- We could get them on mic. So,
Just a point of order, neither of these executive sessions are necessary anymore, so you can skip right over those.
well, I only have one on the agenda, and
Okay.
I have been alerted to the fact that that's no longer needed, and that's a good thing, so. With that, motion to adjourn. All right.
Make sure we get your signatures on everything, and I've got one more thing for you. 4 o'clock yet. Oh, yes, if you need, if you can sign it. That's the agreement. Thank you.
Well, I was gonna ask you,
I addressed it when you had after you asked the questions.
I'll stop.
Yeah, I mean, you've got people took some money out of the FY 2020 that's very, very and I modified that. Asked $74,000 to the New banks already swearing out that.
You're the guy that fills out all the suggestions.
How does that change your budget?
Silliness.
Absolutely.
Well, we didn't ask you public, because it's,
No, that's an example.
Yes.
I wasn't going, yeah.
But you're on the 7th.
And we don't need to talk about it at this point anyway.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, this way, it'll be quiet on the way.
I was gonna say that.
I'll just keep it to myself.
Warrants are over there. They're not all done yet. They haven't been over to Joel or to John yet, to J and J.
The two J's.
I'm gonna hover.
So, sure, I'm not talking. Very first invoice in the general is for This says right on it. That's the sheriff's fund.
All your wood in, John? All your wood taken care of?
No, I haven't gotten started yet, actually. Well, I almost gotten started.
Gotta get it done.
Well, I was waiting for things to dry out. I'm a little concerned about the weather report for the weekend.
Surprised my neighbor.
I'm kind of waiting for the leaves to fall off the trees. It's a lot easier to muck around like back. And I don't really have to dry the wood, so I just stay ahead of it. Who hasn't signed this yet? Joel. Joe.
You mowing the lawn.
No, I got my wife out there. It's about time she did something. Oh, still on camera.
Yeah. Bring it down and go right to her.
I was cut off my legs today.
You're cut down by the wood line.
Pretty smoothly.
I think it's going pretty well. I think it's going good. It's a new, relaxed.
Very relaxed. Hopefully we're not sitting on some.
Steering the lane.
I don't think we are. This is,
We did it, worked out well.
No, you know
I
what's
think
coming
it
right
would have worked out well with either Will or Tim. I think it would have worked out well either with Mike or with Tim.
Yeah.
I think that was two good things, and hiring him rather than Mike kind of left the jail fall complete.
yeah, no, I think, yeah.
And,
Mike's, he's young, he's got a future ahead of him.
yeah, and with
up through and across the road.
They still hunt now?
Corey, that was with
Oh, yeah.
He just went back to work, right?
yeah, so he's he's been cleared, so he's back to work, that's why we didn't do the executive session. So, that was good for him.
And so, I don't know, you talk, I was in here the other day,
Oh, we found a couple.
and Mike Mitchell and Matt Cunningham were running court security because they didn't have any guards.
They probably shoot it.
And Mike said to me that the sheriff has sort of reconsidering this idea of just keeping control over the judicial officers. It's really, and apparently he's just found out that he thought that his people were getting the same as the state judicial officers, but apparently the state was paying their own judicial officers $10 an hour more than what Lori and the people here have been paying.
I appreciate the sheriff wanting to maintain his own judicial officers, but
I think he's having second thoughts.
I think that he should continue having second thought and actually just pull the trigger and go.
Yeah, why are we doing it?
Well, we shouldn't be doing it, for one.
The only reason we're doing it is we don't want to, I don't know if you know these people as well as I do, Lori, these people have been doing it for years. There's no guarantee that, I guess if the SO said, we're not doing this anymore, then the state would pick them up and keep them working. The state employees. Probably.
They might have,
They're close to retirement anyway, so.
they might have to, put it out, advertise it, but they could advertise it in-house.
Yeah. Well, they're the obvious choice. It is a bit of a wild.
Yeah, but it's still, yeah, it's still not a done deal.
Just so you know.
Just seems like a headache and a manpower job.
It is a headache.
You have to bring the signatures to Commissioner Stickers.
I'm sorry?
You have to bring the signatures to.
Yeah. I brought you the pen.
I'll let you
Okay,
know,
so-
I'll let you know that from back.
Feeling like confident at all, or?
Well, so,
That's not helpful.
Do you mind first?
and county administrator, normally what advice you got, don't hand me anything, is correct. But because it was specifically told to me like this, I'm afraid not to do it.
Well, that's why I made a copy. So both of us.
Well, you're a wise man.
Because we don't, neither of us want to be on the red.
You're a wise man.
I think it was Karen that said, "We'll never get the shirt."
They tried to get your fees, I said, no, you don't, no. Well, so is there.
Yes, thank you.
So have you listed realtors or anything like that? So I have one guy, Aaron Bolson, I talked to probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Can you believe that the Chinese people who are being lost in their life? So after this, we will go over the P's and there's
Oh, yeah. Right, it's almost like an industrial type situation where you don't have.
So,
But there's not enough, like with the fire marshal's office, there's not enough evidence there to survive for
So you need a problem to call. You can develop your problem to call. Each person has 16 children. So you have hundreds of children. And that's what they're doing.
So, because, I don't understand this part because you're the sheriff, you're elected as opposed to, the feds. I mean, is there something that's done on the state level to provide you with the power or authority?
So I have the office in Maine. So this is very sort of, she's not the code. At this meeting, we're going to be talking about how we're going to go out of this summer. So we can make a complicated or access to kind of problem. Maine is not prepared to handle that. And so we're not going to be successful without listening to all these other parties and be partners. And that's what we're going to do.
Sounds like it's gonna take a while.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah. One of the things, that situation, I don't know if I don't think it helps if it occurs, is the meetings.
So, yeah,
so it hurts, it's good and bad. I can probably do it, let's just say I can't read.
Laurel,
She wants to come to a meeting.
very, 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 she's all about her. And she's with her camera.
Can I turn this, can I legally, can I turn this off?